Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Talking the Red. This is Westsor. I play Kyra on the Balmung server in the Crystal Data Center, and today I'm going to do something a little bit different. This is something that I've had requested quite a bit. It's a request that I've seen in a lot of different forums that I go on, and this is going to be an introductory guide to Red Mage. So I know I've done a lot of fight-specific videos, and those are kind of a mix of my Red Mage style play with being like boss guides and whatnot. But I've noticed that there aren't really a whole lot of guides out there for really beginning Red Mage players. So that's what this is going to be today. There are a lot of great guides out there that will talk about your openings and how to maximize DPS, really do all the little finicky things that Red Mage does. But there aren't really a whole lot of guides for very basic players. So that is what this is going to be. If you are someone that's familiar with Red Mage and just kind of wanting to, get a little bit better at it or find, ways to maximize your rotation, that's not what this guide is for. This is very much a baby's guide to Red Mage, going over the very entry-level mechanics from ground zero. So we'll be talking about, what exactly Red Mage is, how it works, what the moves themselves do. So if you're, a sprout maybe coming over from another game and think you might want to give this a shot, or if you're just really not understanding like what exactly Red Mage is supposed to do, that is what this guide is for. Yeah, I think this will be a lot of fun. I'm here in Azim Step. I have no idea how long these striking dummies are going to last, but it was really the highest level open world striking dummies I could find. So this is going to be our landscape for our little training video. Feel free to head to Reunion it if you've unlocked it yet and follow along. So Red Mage is my main job. It's the one I keep coming back to, and I just really like it. Red Mage is a caster DPS that really focuses on a nice mix of both traditional casting like Black Mage and Thaumaturge do, but mixes it with a lot more mobility and a little bit more utility. And I'll go into that here in just a second, but it's a really nice entry-level class with a nice skill cap for those that really understand it. So if you know what you're doing, you can really pump out some nice damage and save the rate in a lot of cases with your utility. But it's also not super complicated like Monk or Black Mages with its rotation that's pretty strict. You have a lot of mobility and a lot of ways to kind of build it to your own. Red Mage is a type of job that really focuses on what's going on in the moment and being able to adjust things on the fly rather than sticking with a very strict rotation. So the class really focuses on two major aspects. And you'll see with my hilariously large UI here, I've got my hotbars right here, and then I've got this thing over here on the right. So this is our mana bar. Red Mage, the whole idea of Red Mage is that you want to keep these in balance as much as possible. So we're basically the Final Fantasy version of Thanos here, okay? So we want to keep our black and our white mana as even as we possibly can. And then once it reaches to a certain point, we kind of become almost like a Corsair. We jump in, we do a quick melee combo with our rapier, and then we jump back out and get back into casting. So that's the first main aspect of Red Mage. The second thing that we really focus on is our dual casting ability. So, with Black Mage, they put out a lot of numbers, but they do it by standing in one place and popping off these really long casts and cycling between a few different elements. So with Red Mage instead, what we typically do is we have a dual cast system. So we'll cast one really long cast, and then our next cast is instant. So we can pop off very quickly. You'll see me do it quite a bit in this video, but it's something called slide casting, where your animation and your casting is going off at the same time that you're moving around, and that's where Red Mage mobility really comes into play. Unlike a Black Mage, we don't have to really stay put the entire time, which is really nice if you're someone that favors a lot of really mobile classes or just generally likes to move around a whole lot in a fight. Obviously, our numbers are going to be a little bit lower than Black Mage, but I find it very, very fun. It's engaging, and you'll see here in a little bit. It has a lot of variety to it. So I'm not going to go too much into how I have my hotbar set up, just because everyone has something a little bit different for their own comfort level. There are a lot of controller players out there, but I do want to go over a couple things that I do think are going to be very, very important, and it might be universal to how you're going to set up your own. So I have mine arranged really by type. So like I said, we have black mana and we have white mana. So that's kind of how I've set up my bars, is to keep those things grouped together. So we have our Ver Stone and Ver Arrow here. Those are 2 white mana spells. And then our black mana spells, Ver Fire and Ver Thunder. Okay, so you'll see I keep those as close together as I can. And then our melee combo that we use is going to be up here. Okay. Now, the cool thing with Red Mage is a lot of our buttons are going to change as we do our mechanics. So you'll notice that these get the little highlight around them a little bit later. So these, you're never going to use them when they look like this. They're going to turn red and have enchanted versions of those. But this kind of shows you where I've got them set up right now. Got my AoEs right here. All right. Jolt 2 is going to be one of our main casting buttons. That's what we're going to use when we don't have anything procced. You'll see what I mean by that here in just a second. So you can kind of keep that wherever you want. These right here are 2 big off global cooldowns. So these are the 2 buttons you're going to want to keep an eye on in between casts. Typically, a Red Mage will be able to fit both of these in during their downtime between cooldowns here. Swift cast, of course. And this right here, Embolden, is going to be our big group buff. Just about every class has some major group buff. This is going to be ours. Like I said, I'm not going to go too much into rotations and you know, how to keep that synced up, but you'll probably see a lot of other guides talking about this one on how to sync it up with Dragoons versus Ninjas versus Casters. You do want to try keeping this synced up with the other party buffs that are going to go out around you. So that's something that you want to keep kind of ready to go. It's a pretty long cooldown, so it doesn't have to be one of your main buttons, but definitely keep it somewhere where you're going to be able to find it. All right, and then down here, another big AoE right here. And then these are the two fun ones. So, 3 fun ones, I guess. So these are big movement abilities. So Core is what we're going to use to jump into the heat of battle right before we do a melee combo. Looks really fun and speedy. Displacement is how we kill ourselves. This will launch us backwards, and you'll probably do it more than a few times where you jump back a little bit too far and then fall off the edge of a platform. Happens all the time. If you're doing prog, it's not a real Red Mage guide if you don't accidentally kill yourself. And then for instances where you cannot move around or you're coming up with a mechanic, you probably saw me use it quite a bit in some of my other videos, but there are bosses where you can't really stay super far away from them a whole lot. That is what engagement right here is for. It is essentially the same cooldown as our displacement. It just doesn't jump you backwards, and it's a little bit smaller potency. So if you can't move around, this is your option right here. Okay? Now, Red Mage, like I said, has a lot of different procs and stuff going on, which again means you don't really have to stick with the strict rotation because you honestly don't know what your rotation is going to be. You're going to have procs. These 2 right here are going to light up as you go through the fight. These will be enchanted at some point, and happens about 50% of the time. So when these are up, that is typically what you want to use instead of Jolt 2. So let's get in here and take a really quick look, and I'll just kind of show you how it all works. So we'll cast our Jolt 2, and this gets us started. Jolt is always going to be 3 mana. And yeah, there is a little bit of math involved. So you see I got my 3 mana here, and then you'll see my dual cast went up. We just cast a long cast button right here with Jolt 2. That's considered a long cast. And then I can go ahead and use my really beefy one right here. Okay? So long cast, and then your next one is free. So these 2, the one that lit up right here, you want to use these because these are typically your shorter cast times. but they're smaller potency. So you want to use your smaller cast times to proc your dual cast buff. That way you can use your big, beefy arrow attack free. No cast time or anything like that involved. Okay, so that is really the basic of Red Mage right there. That is our bread and butter. That is how we build up our mana. All right, so I'll do it again right here, just so you can see what it looks like. All right. Now, you'll notice I'm really, really high up on my white mana, really, really low on our black mana. Remember how I said that there's going to be a lot of math involved? Well, this is where it comes into play, and this is why Red Mage is kind of a variable playstyle, why it's fun to me to keep track of it, because you can kind of change things up in the moment based on what you want to do. All right, so our magic number for this is 31. Anytime our mana gets uneven by 31 or more, 32 or more, I guess, you don't get as much from the lower end mana. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean by that. So we are way above the 31 threshold right here, okay? So whenever I cast my Jolt, notice how instead of getting 3 mana, I only got 4. So if you keep falling behind, it's going to be harder and harder to get that back up to where you're even and where you can jump into your melee combo. You know, that melee combo is our big damage dealer, and you'll see why that is here in just a second. But essentially, any given boss fight, you want to fit in as many melee combos as you possibly can, because that is where all of your damage is going to be coming from. So if you make it hard on yourself by going out of sync, then you're going to be losing quite a few of those melee combos the longer and longer a fight drags on, right? So we're going to go ahead and try getting back up as fast as possible. Okay, put my cast there. Cast Jolt. Try getting my black mana back up. Under normal circumstances, you'll get 3 from a Jolt, and your big cast should give you 11, right? There we go. So now we're inching back to that 31 threshold, and you'll see that my black mana starts jumping back way up. All right. So again, use your short cast, and then your big beefy cast with no timer. Okay, short cast, long cast. There you go. You always want to make your long casts your free cast if you can. That'll change up a bit if you watch some of the opening guides, since we have a little bit of leeway there. But for the grand majority of your time, you want to make your big long cast times your instant. Okay. So again, that'll be Ver Thunder and Ver Arrow. Notice their cast times are 4, or almost 5 seconds, as opposed to your smaller cast, which is closer to 2. All right. So once we get to about 80 mana, that is the magic number for a melee combo. That means we can fit the entire thing in and have a lot of fun moving around and zipping around the boss, okay? So once you get to 80 mana, you're going to see this all light up. You'll hear the ping in the background, and you can jump right in, okay? So use Core, and notice how these buttons here changed around into red. So they are the enchanted version. Now, these will automatically move down a line as you go through here, okay? So do your melee combo. I'm going to displace out of here. It's usually when I do it. Notice our big, long, beefy casts have changed, and they have the spinny glow. So that is the last parts of our combo. Leads into the big scorch right here. All right. So that's the basics of the melee combo. You'll get to jump right in, do your 3 buttons right here, and then do 2 really big casts. Now, these casts here are really important to keep in mind. Whenever you do them, you're going to get about 20 mana from whichever one you choose to use, right? So we'll get back up here and get back to my melee combo here. Okay. I'm getting a little bit high on my black mana, so I'm going to start casting a few more of my white. Okay. And there we go. All right, so I'll show you one more time what the melee combo looks like. So jump in with Core, go down the line, Then you get 2 casts. Now notice I've got both of these up, but I'm a little bit lower on my black mana, so I want to go ahead and use that one right there. And it gives me a whole lot to go off of. Then, of course, Scorch, which bumps up both. So again, that's going to be really important as you go on, because you want to kind of keep an eye on which one you're going to need more mana of by the time you finish your combo. Typically, you want to use whichever one you're a little bit lower on, but there might be circumstances where you need to change it up, or you know a mechanic is coming up, or you know a cooldown that you've got is going to be coming up. So again, that's one of those things that gives us a lot of variety in our play style here, okay? Now, whenever I cast my Jolt here and then use my big beefy cast, you'll notice that it doesn't always proc one of our free buttons. So like that dark button right there, my black mana, that did not cast my my enchanted version, right? So I'm going to introduce another move here. This is going to be another really important one to keep in mind, and that is acceleration. So whenever you cast this button right here, that is going to mean that the next 3 casts of your white or black that you use is automatically going to proc your buttons here, okay? So I'm going to use my acceleration, use my jolt, and then no matter what, this is going to proc up 3 times, either my white or my black. Guaranteed. Now, it has a fairly short buff time, so it's something you want to keep in mind. Okay, start weaving in some of our global cooldowns there. And there we go, back to another melee combo, alright? Get in here, show you one more time. Okay. Alright. Now, as the fight goes on, you're going to see this button pop up quite a bit, and this is another really, really important one to keep in mind. So, Modification instantly doubles whatever amount of mana we currently have saved up. So, you remember how I was saying we need 80 mana to go into a melee combo? So that means once we get to around 40 to 60 mana, we can pop this button right here and instantly do a melee combo. Means, especially at the opening of a fight, we're able to do a bunch of these really, really quickly, right? Or in Alliance raids where you usually start a boss with 100 mana. So that gives you a lot to go with. It also does have a small buff that will increase your magic damage for the next few seconds as well. That's something they added in a couple of patches ago. So I'll show you how that works, all right? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pop my acceleration there so I get guaranteed buffs right there. All right, so go ahead and pop my modification. You'll notice, boom, it jumps up to 84 and 90. So I can go ahead and get in here with a melee combo without any fear whatsoever, all right? And start a boss fight with that. If you watch a lot of your opening guides, that's going to be a pretty important one. Okay. So, that's kind of the basics of Red Mage. Now, I do want to talk about a couple of our role things here, okay? So, regardless of what class you play, if you are a caster, you're going to have these buttons right here. Addle, Swift Cast, Lucid Dreaming. Swift Cast is something that seems like it wouldn't be really needed as a Red Mage, right? Because we already have an instant cast, right? But it actually is pretty important. Again, we want these down here, our Ver Fire and Ver Stone, to proc as much as possible, which means we can basically use Swift Cast on cooldown. It is actually a DPS boost to do that, but it's really, really important when you're trying to fish for a proc. So if you're just getting really unlucky, your jolts are not procking any of these at all, you can cast Swift Cast, get an extra free button in there, and hope that it's going to pop up your enchanted versions of these, right? So, yes, I need more black mana. Hey, look there! I got my enchanted Ver Fire, so I'm ready to go. Okay. Surecast is our movement interruption, so if a boss is going to be throwing you around, that one is what you want to press to keep it from moving. And then Lucid Dreaming is a really, really important one. So Red Mage is a caster that really doesn't have to worry too much about mana for the most part. However, this is where Red Mage gets really fun. We have an instant raise. So if you know what you're doing, once you play it for a while, you are probably going to be able to pop off raises much, much faster than your healers are, because they can really only do it instantly if they have Swift Cast up, right? So that is where we are basically kings of prog, right? If a whole lot of people go down, a boss takes out 3 people at once, or the tank goes down, we can just click their name and instantly bring them up. But you'll see it's got a pretty massive mana cost, 2,400. Means you're only going to be able to realistically get maybe 3 of these off before you're essentially out of mana in any given rotation. So Lucid Dreaming is always really nice to have, just in case of emergencies. I typically use it on cooldown whenever I'm around 7,200 is about when I cast it. And I find that keeps me topped off and leaves me enough room in case I do need to do a bunch of reses, right? But yes, this is probably, if you're going to be doing a lot of group content, this right here is probably your most important button. So really put this in a place where you're going to be able to access it pretty quickly. You don't want to make it like one of your primary buttons, especially if you're on controller, but you do need it ready to go just in case. Okay, so that is the basics of Red Mage. So, like I said, you've got your black and your white mana. Here's your white, here's your black. Okay, got your Jolt 2, again, your main cast if you don't have your lucky procs up, and then your melee combo, all right? So what does this look like all put together with all of your global cooldowns and everything like that? So let me go ahead and get in here and show you. Okay, so go ahead, get okay, get in there with my melee combo. Okay, and I'll do it again just in case. Alright, so I don't have my modification up, so I'll have to do it the slow boating way, but notice how I'm trying to balance my white and black as best as possible. There's all kinds of different ways you can do it. Use whatever is most comfortable for you. Some will cast a black mana small cast and then a white big cast. I mean, you can really do however you want to do it. It varies a lot because, again, it's all based on which of these procs are going to be coming up. So, like right now, I've got white. It's going to bring me up pretty high on that end. All right. Need more black mana, so go ahead and use that. And there we go. All right, so we've got a quick look at Red Mage there. All right, and there's a few things you're going to need to weave in there, you know, here and there. Obviously, I did not cast my Embolden. I didn't cast Swift Cast all that often. So you have those you need to move in. But that kind of gives you, you know, a very, very basic look. You know, if I was going to go into a boss and do this as hard as I possibly could, you know, max cooldowns, max DPS all the way, you know, it'd probably look a little bit faster. You would start with your acceleration, get into one of your long casts right here, okay? Totally screwed up that opening, so you can ignore that part. But yeah, you'll weave your Swift Cast in quite a bit more often than you normally would. Like I said, it used to be that you'd only want to use it to fish for procs. I think the number crunchers have changed it around so that you have a little bit better idea to just go ahead and use it as you can. Even if you already have a proc of that color up, it turns out Swift Cast does actually help out your DPS more than just letting it sit there, right? But yeah, so especially if you're coming over to other games, I mean, most of you should be used to this at this point. Here we go. But you'll notice that I'm weaving in these off-global cooldowns. So you have your main cooldown buttons, which is when the little circle is going around it. Off-global cooldowns are buttons that are, well, it's off-global cooldown, so you can use them anytime you want. Now, with Red Mage, we don't want to clip our casts, right? Clipping a cast means... Here. I'll slow this down a little bit just to kind of explain what clipping casts means, okay? So clipping casts means you're using too many of these off global cooldowns in a row, right? So Like, say... We'll wait for these to pop up, but, you know, say I'm in the middle of a fight and I want to try getting, you know, my Contra 6, my Flesh, and my Modification all off, right? You don't want to use all three of those at once, because what's going to happen is all of your abilities on cooldown, those are your big boys. Those are where your damage comes from, okay? If you end up clipping your casts, or pushing it back, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it. You do have a slight animation lock, so whenever I did that, you saw that I wasn't able to jump immediately into my button that just went off of cooldown. It pushes everything back. So wherever you are in your rotation, now it's going to be, you know, a very, very small split second behind what it would be in an optimal rotation, right? Which doesn't sound like a big deal. I'm only, you know, just a little bit behind. But if you keep doing that over the course of some of these 10-minute boss fights, I mean, that adds up to a lot of casts that you could have gotten off that would have improved your DPS, right? So you might see that phrase a lot. It's not necessarily exclusive to Red Mage either. Just about every class in the game can push their global cooldown abilities back if you keep trying to squeeze too many in. As a Red Mage, we can generally fit 2 off global cooldowns. Our animations are short enough, and our cooldown stays long enough that we're able to do that. Usually, with the melee combo there, as you can see, I only did 1 in between each cooldown. And that is because the melee combo is quite a bit faster. Like, they really speed it up to get you in there and bounce back. Again, it feels like a Corsair almost. So I only fit 1 of these in between my melee combo buttons, right? But for a normal cast, you know, just a bog standard ability. Okay? You see, I can pop both my acceleration and my swift cast in that time frame. You have enough time to get 2 of those in. So that's where Red Mage is. Again, it's going to be a little bit different for every job. The reason ours is pretty consistent is we don't want spell speed. Spell speed is kind of useless to us. We already get an instant cast, so there's really no reason that we need that. So pretty much from the moment you pick up your rapier to the moment you down your, you know, last savage boss, our spell speed is going to be pretty consistent. Our global cooldown is going to be pretty consistent. So generally, you can expect to fit 2 of those in, right? Okay, so we'll do the rotation one more time here just so you guys can see what it looks like, okay? Again, this is going to be all sped up. And, here in a second, I will actually jump into a dungeon or 2. That way you guys can actually see what it looks like in practice, and I will try and do my best to do a live broadcast. I don't know how it's gonna go, but I'll do a live explanation of everything that I'm doing so you can see what it looks like practically. All right? So give me just a few moments, and I'll step in queue. All right, so I said I was gonna get in queue, and then I completely forgot Trusts exist. So hey, look, it's our buddies. How'd they get in here? I can't believe I get to meet them. Okay, so I am gonna start a little bit before the first boss, just so I can show you the AoE combos here, show you how AoE works. AoE is pretty dumb easy as a Red Mage. You don't have to keep track of nearly as much. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have mana to worry about, but we really only have like 4 buttons for AoE stuff. You've got your white AoE, your black AoE, impact, and you have this button here that I added to my bars. That is Moulinet. That is essentially what we use instead of the melee combo. It's easy. I'm not worried about you guys figuring it out. So like, oh wow, oh no, look at all these scorpions. All right, and so you just use your short white or black, and then cast impact. Oh wow. Okay, so I'm at 100. I'll go ahead and use my Moulinet. It's essentially a conal attack. It'll attack everything in front of you. I'm gonna try burning my burning as much mana as I can, just so you can see like a boss fight as close to fresh as you can. Okay. And sometimes with AoE and, you know, weave in a Contra 6 right there. Yeah, that hits everything around. You'll want to use Contra 6 on a single target boss too. It's, you know, a pretty big part of your damage, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of made for AoE situations too. Okay. Alright, so get these guys down. I usually only use AoE whenever there's like 3 or more bosses. It has a fairly decent range, but you'll still want to try and target whatever like mob is in the center as best as possible. You probably, if you've ever watched my streams, you've probably seen me like mass tabbing on trash fights. That's just to try and find whichever is going to hit the most. That's just me trying to min-max, you know. Alright, so we got our boss here. Like I said, we'll try and go in with our opening combo here. Like I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but essentially you're going to cast Acceleration, and then you're going to cast your 2 beefy boys right in a row. Whichever one you want to start with is up to you. But obviously I need more black mana right now, so that's what we'll do. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start here. And this is what a boss fight would typically look like as a red mage. So you cast your Acceleration, and like I said, you're going to get your 2 big boys in a row, since you don't have to worry about time all that much. Alright. So you'll see I'm getting pretty high end on my black mana, so I want to switch back over to my white. Throw in my 2 off global cooldowns. Alright. Now we're at 80 mana, so go in for a melee combo. Now this will be a little bit tricky since we don't know where the balls are going to pop up, but you can get in there. I'm a little hampered because I don't have Scorch, but just keep in mind normally at the end I would have Scorch go off. Okay. Oop. Run on over here. And notice how mobile I am. Like, I only really need about 2 seconds to go with my small cast, and then I can really move around as much as I want, dodge mechanics, have some fun with it. That's really, again, where Red Mage comes into play, alright? Finish off our combo there, and then get back in. Notice I'm limiting myself to just 2 off global cooldowns. Alright? I don't know what happened there, probably misclicked something on my mouse, it happens. Alright. Normally I'll throw Embolden in there on cooldown, you know. Once you've timed your first one and you kind of know what you're doing, you'll pretty much use Embolden off cooldown. Once everyone's all synced up, just pop it when you can, because everyone else will be up too. Now you notice I have a little bit of time to move here before the cast actually finishes. Again, that's that slide casting. That's due to the ping rate that Final Fantasy has built into the game to help low latency players. So you can actually start moving once a bar gets to about 3/4 of the way, and you'll be perfectly fine, you know. All right, and I'm purposely holding off on the melee combo just so I could show you the slide casting thing there. But yeah, it's really good when you're trying to get out of mechanics and whatnot and need to dodge stuff. Okay. Alright, so now you kind of see how the slide casting works, so we'll go ahead and jump into our melee combo here. Alright. Displace. Alright, get my 2 off global cooldowns in on this cast. Or not, because my mouse doesn't want to work, but normally you fit 2 global cooldowns in there. Or off global cooldowns, okay? Now, okay, so I have enough that I can go ahead and use Modification. Trying to figure out when to use it is kind of a tricky part as a red mage. I usually limit myself to like 60 mana. If it goes above 60, then it's close enough for me to just go ahead and finish my casts. I'm close enough here, I'll go ahead and use it just to get it out of the way and get another cast in here because the boss is going to go down soon. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure some of the people that have handled like a lot of the Excel spreadsheets have figured out like what the actual max is, but I keep myself limited to 60. I try and use it as close to 40 as I can, right? But yeah, so that is what a typical boss fight would look like. We'll go on up through here, burn through these other guys real quick, and show you at max speed, no commentary, or as little commentary as I can, just so I can kind of focus on the fight. But yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Okay, so here we are at the final boss. I skipped the second one for spoilers, but let's go ahead and get in here and show you what it looks like again. This will be our full rotation, what it looks like in action, completely ready to go. All right. So say we had, well, I don't know if I know how to do it, but we'll do a 15-second timer just so you can kind of see what it looks like. Okay. There we go. So we can cast acceleration anytime after 10 seconds, so we'll go ahead and cast it there. I usually do it around 7. All right. 5-second countdown. Go ahead and start using our long cast, and then we have our 2 beefy boys there. Okay. There we go. Go ahead and use an embolden this time and jump in there. Alright, so notice I'm keeping my mana even, and now we have time for our first combo. Alright. Go ahead and jump in there. Don't forget, you will normally have Scorch at level 80. Okay. Use my Swift Cast on cooldown there. Alright, so he's gonna do his jump. And notice I did clip my cast a little bit there. Because I used my core instead of just running up to him to melee, okay? Go. Tab and get the other chains. Okay, use another off-global cooldown, a Contra 6. Alright. And then, yeah, this is going to be basically it, right? You know, I'm getting a little high on my white mana, so I need to jump back to my black. Go ahead and use my Lucid Dreaming there. Got fists to worry about, and this is where I can kind of show you the slide casting. Now there are going to be points like this where running is just going to be unavoidable. You might lose a little bit of time on some of your casts, but remember, my whole deal is mechanics first, right? There we go. My combo, and then my flesh. All right, another swift cast, and see if maybe I can get the white one to pop up. Nope, no luck. Okay. Now you'll really see the slide casting here in just a little bit when he starts doing his spin, right? Alright, get my black mana back up. Especially when I'm doing these explanations, I have a really bad habit of letting one of my mana sides get up too high, so just something to keep paying attention to, right? Alright, so I'm really high. I don't like it to go over 100 if I can help it. You know, that's just wasted mana, right? Okay. Oh. Guess I get blasted by the mechanics, okay. Alright, so we're moving and casting, there you go. Again, you can start moving a little bit early. I just moved too early in my eagerness to show you guys, but yeah, you have plenty of time to get around here and really abuse that free cast that you get. Alright. Okay, get into our melee combo again. Okay. Got his right punch coming up. Now you'll notice I've got modification ready, so once we get back into position over here, I can go ahead and use that. Okay. Now, looks like we're going to have some chains go up, so I'll switch on over there, and I'll actually use my big end of my combo on the chains, you know, if you are on keyboard and mouse. Just a really quick tab will switch you, and yeah, it's very, very easy as a red mage to switch between targets on the fly like that, and you know, you don't have to stick with one target to gain your mana, so it's perfectly fine to, you know, flip between 2 or 3, and follow your mechanics, right? Okay, my combo there. I'll displace, or maybe not because I already used it. So I'll go ahead and I'll burn my core right there. It's fine to use that on cooldown if you have the opportunity. Typically, the timer will be up around the same time as your melee combo, but you want to fit as many of those in as you can as well if you're trying to min-max. Okay? But there you have it. There is the Little Sprouts guide to Red Mage. If you guys have any questions, feel free to like and subscribe. Watch my other Talking the Red videos where I go a little bit more in depth with specific bosses, and I will try to keep that series going. I haven't done as much Savage rating this tier as I used to, just been kind of playing casually, but if people are interested in hearing more Talking the Red and getting into some of the nitty-gritty details with Red Mage and specific bosses, I'll hop back into Party Finder for you guys, I guess. But thanks for watching, and hope you guys have a good day.